And so the passion for sport was, like you mentioned, right? As a kid playing and loving sport and being outdoors. What about the nutrition side of things? Because that's clearly a passion of yours as well.
Yeah, it was funny. I sort of had two waves of nutrition interest. Sort of way back then in the 1980s, I worked closely with Karen Inge, who's a very well-known dietitian. Was probably the first AFL or VFL in those days dietitian, I think, with Collingwood and then with Hawthorn. And so Karen and I wrote a book called Food for Sport, which was sort of the first specialist Australian sports nutrition book back in the mid-80s. And then, to be honest, after that, I sort of lost a bit of interest in nutrition because it all became a bit boring. It was all just sort of, Gatorade and Powerade and carb-loading and pasta parties and things like that. So I sort of just put that on the back burner, if you like, for a long time until relatively recently, where I've got more interested in not so much sports nutrition, but just general nutrition.
And for those listening that want to make a bit of a change, like you mentioned, the carbohydrate, sugary foods, what did you substitute in for those foods?
Well, I basically stopped having, any sort of sugar or soft drinks or fruit juice, like fruit juice. We're all told that one of the things that we've been told were healthy, like fruit juice and fruit yogurts and muesli bars and so on, are full of sugar and lots of unhealthy stuff. So I basically sort of went back probably to eating the way that my grandparents would have eaten, basic healthy food, sort of meat and fish and eggs and dairy. Eggs we've been told, full of cholesterol, you can't have that, and dairy, all that fat, So just went back to basic, eating real food again, and I avoid processed food. Try and avoid anything, packet or a can, and just eat really well. And the other thing is when you stop eating carbohydrates, you stop being hungry. And so I went from eating, probably 3 meals and 3 snacks a day to eating twice a day, which is what I do now.
So you mentioned the app Defeat Diabetes. For those that haven't downloaded it, what does it entail? Is it
it's a whole program. So there's a lot of education there. So it's basically we run through 13 steps where we provide a lot of information. So myself and Paul Mason, who's a sports physician, also a sports physician in Sydney, and Nicole Moore, a dietitian, we spent the whole of last year in lockdown basically developing this content. So we've got 13 steps, each of which have videos, articles, action plans, quizzes, and so on. So you go through that 13. So it gives you all the background information as well as the practical ways of transitioning to a restricted carbohydrate diet. On top of that, we've got meal plans. We've got a whole bunch of really nice recipes. We've got cooking demonstrations because we believe that people don't know how to cook these days.
Along the way, who are your strong influences? Did you have mentors? Like you mentioned, it's changed the sports medicine back then.
Look,
who guided you along the way?
To be honest, I didn't really have a mentor. I sort of, and I guess as a result, I've sort of been very, very keen to mentor other people because, there really wasn't anyone around in my day to sort of had done what I, finished up doing. There was a lovely old guy called Fred Better who was a very eccentric Polish doctor who was in sports medicine and general practice. He was like a bit of a father figure to me. But from a career point of view, the interesting thing is that the thing that I really discovered is that I learned most of my sports medicine from physios. And, there's very much, the medical profession attitude is that we know everything and, what would, the allied health people know and,
What about from the athletes that you've worked with amongst Cricket Australia, Liverpool? What are some trends that you've noticed in young athletes that are successful, whether it be the mental side or physical?
Yeah, well, look, I guess there are some common characteristics of all the athletes that you work with. One is that they're resilient, both physically and mentally. So, we've seen so many incredibly talented athletes. Injury. That's just bad luck. Some of it's bad management. So, I think the really good athletes have incredible attention to detail. They just look at every possible way that they can improve their performance and go about it. So that might be both the mental side and the physical side, whether that be extra training or extra treatment